You're listening to The Forgotten Faction, brought to you by Dads of Destiny Westside. Visit us at dodwestside.com or follow us on Twitter at dodwestside. So, what are we doing here, Doc? It's Saturday. Well, we record on Thursdays.
Well, we record on Thursdays now.
Yeah, but why are we?
Well, we've got
why are we on?
three days until a new expansion's coming out, and I've realized, even within our clan, that we have people that have never played Destiny 1. We also have people, even some people on this podcast, that have no idea who Osiris is.
Who?
Exactly. No idea what he did, why he is a main focus of a DLC, and why, realistically, why should you care?
Valid point. So, what are we going to do today? Is this the rumored all lore podcast?
We've got
the all lore podcast.
We've got Mahor, Ma, whatever you want to call him. He's here helping us out today.
Hey.
And Mahor, how long you been in the clan?
I've been in the clan 6 or so months. I joined this spring.
Awesome. And so you did play D1, correct?
I did. I was slumming in LFGs before I joined the clan.
Ew, LFG, so nasty. All right, well, welcome to the clan. How many of the latest raid completions do you have?
I hit 30 last night.
Damn.
Okay, not bad. So you've been grinding away there.
Yeah, helping out.
Not too shabby.
Helping out new members through the raid. It's not that bad. Kind of fun to run.
Zach, how many raid completions do you have? I've got one, so I'm not gonna throw shade.
That's
anywhere.
sad, Doc. You need to get your butt in that raid, and you need to have at least double the number of completions I have.
Do you know what I do? One. I like going into the adventures because it's so much information.
Oh yeah, that's true. All right, well then I guess we're going to talk about it. Hopefully it's going to come in handy this episode. So let's when we initially had the idea for this episode, it was kind of a everything you need to know about Osiris and the Vex, going into this DLC. And then they laughed at me when I said that. I was like, why? Why is this so funny? It's like, because that'd be like a 5 or 7 hour episode. You can't do that in an hour and a half. So we are going to skim the surface on Osiris.
We can do that in an hour and a half. Go to www.ishtar-collective.net and do homework.
And start reading. Yeah. But we did some of that homework for you guys, and so we're going to talk about Osiris. We're going to talk a little bit about the Vex, and we're going to talk about what you guys need to know so that this DLC makes sense.
Pretty much.
So
should be fun.
Let's where should we start, Doc, with all this? Let's maybe
we should start with who Osiris is. Now, for a lot of the time of D1, we pretty much knew vague information about him. We knew that he was the Vanguard commander. We knew that he was exiled for as far as we could tell, a disagreement with the speaker pertaining to beliefs on the Traveler. I mean, Zach, for someone that really didn't pay attention to lore, what did you know about Osiris? Let's start off with there, and maybe we can use you as I hate to say it, as an experiment, maybe even a golden age experiment to explain what's going on.
So if I remember my reading correctly from back when I was still playing D1 and enjoying what little lore I could gather from within the game, and a few other random YouTube videos, Osiris was was Zavala before Zavala was Zavala, and in that kind of a position. And he and the speaker had a falling out, and the speaker was kind of his mentor, if I'm not mistaken. Yes. And Osiris and Saint 14 were like brothers. and they defended the city in many a great battle together before Osiris was exiled, and then Saint 14 goes looking for him and disappears.
Essentially.
Am I on the
Yes.
right track?
So what happened
Fill us in here.
is I may or may need to correct me on this one because I get the battles mixed up.
Okay.
But I believe it was after Twilight Gap is when Saint 14 was sent to go and either retrieve or possibly kill Osiris.
And I think it was Twilight Gap because it was after the Battle of Six Fronts that he got elevated to what Ikora is, right? And is the warlock representative on the Vanguard.
Yes. He was pretty much, Saint 14 said, we want him. He is probably the best person to lead the warlocks.
And then afterwards, after Saint 14 killed that Kel, he decided to go chase after Osiris, so must have been after Twilight Gap.
Yeah. But I mean, that's going along with the Destiny timeline, and we know how well that pans out half the time. Actually,
So-
if you want to, Zach, if you want to actually read the Legend of Saint 14 card, I just sent it to you in the show notes. That will actually give you what happened as far as that.
Oh, really? This
This
is
is what explains how Saint 14 was sent to hunt down Osiris.
So, if I remember correctly, and this is again via YouTube video, the Helm of Saint 14, which was a lot of fun to use, particularly in Crota's End as a Titan in D1, gives you the ability to blind enemies inside your
Yes.
bubble. And the lore around that is, I don't know if you guys noticed on the helmet, there's a dent
And
in the
cracks.
helmet, and that is from where he literally headbutted a Kel to kill it. That almost killed him. And it says that his in the card, yeah, here it actually says his helm found purchase breaking through just above the Kel's eyes, referencing the blinding aspect there.
But it's where right here, the devils without a Kel, the war was over at last.
Yes,
They could finally go home.
So that would be the House of Devils. So he
Of
killed
the
the
House
Kel
of Devils.
of the House of Devils,
And then
which we talk about repeatedly in
that
D1.
we suppose that it's him talking to his ghost, and he says, get me the speaker. Opening his channel, please stand by. And then now you have the speaker talking to Saint 14. Is that you, my son? The speaker's voice was filled with more than anticipation of news than concern. It is, father. The devil Kelsulcus is dead. This war is over. Such courage and power, the greatest ever to brace these worlds. You bring all of us peace. We will light the final flare, devil red. They will all know what you've done. Father, I don't think I have the energy to return. I'll rest here and come back to be honored when I return. Of course, son, but there is something concerning you. More fallen march on the city? No, not this time. I have word that Osiris has been seen on Mercury, the Caloris Basin. He's turned his mind back to the Vex. Mercury? Too many channels to know. You activate one and you start to feed its veins. He threatens our peace. Your duty, my son. You must never forget. I cannot. The ghost killed the feed and waited for its guardian's words. Ghost, prepare my Vex arsenal. The plot and plot a course for Mercury. That old man is about to wake up hell.
Oh, I never noticed that before. That old man. Because I never thought about Osiris as being old until we saw the video, but actually it's referenced right there in the lore. A couple of things that I really like about that lore there, and that maybe we can discuss here, but there's a very much a father son kind of a mentality here between Saint 14 and the speaker.
Yep.
As you can see by their referencing there, and with Saint 14 and Osiris, having kind of a brotherly relationship. I could foresee that Osiris and the speaker had a similar relationship.
The way I look at Osiris and the
Potentially.
speaker is that they were more once after he became his apprentice in a way. I feel like they became more of, how do I put this? They were on equal footing as far as how they were towards each other, because Osiris was completely okay with arguing with the speaker about his beliefs.
Okay, I can see that. Okay, one of the other things that's interesting, that he was reading here as you were going along, and he said, "Your duty, you must never forget." And he says, "I cannot." And is that referencing some? It seems to be referencing some place that Saint 14 failed, maybe to stop Osiris, and now he has to finish it.
I think
That's why
I think that comes in because Saint 14 really pushed for Osiris to be on the guard, representing the warlock. That was his guy that he went to the speaker and said, he needs to lead warlocks from here on out.
So he went to bat for him, and then it turned on him. So now he's got to.
He's the reason that Osiris became the Warlock Vanguard, and then later became the commander of the Vanguard.
Okay.
So it could be taken as, your fault, your problem, you need to fix it. It could also be referencing something else that we don't know.
Okay, very interesting. And then the last thing I saw, that kind of just side note, which was he says, prepare my Vex arsenal. Like, he's got a special arsenal just for the Vex.
Well, of course he does.
Like, I love that.
Anybody
idea.
that's
like, because when I shoot Vex versus Thrall, it's pretty much all the same thing to me. Like, I don't care. Hive, Vex, whatever. I'm gonna use the same.
Mayhor may be able to understand this one. If you're going to, like, especially in D1, you had different gear for different raids, right, Mayhor?
Absolutely.
Yeah, like if you're going to kill Crota, it's completely different set of items than when you're going to kill Atheon.
I could see that. Yeah, well, I mean, particularly when it comes to heavy, because like you're gonna run swords or I could see that.
Even the
rocket launcher sniper.
Even the gear you wear. I mean, just diving into the additional perks that are available. Some are better against the Vex. Some are better against the Hive. Kind of a lost thing in D2, but hey, you definitely want different gear for the different enemy types.
I can see that. Yeah, that makes sense. And again, I think it's just an interesting little detail that they put in there. It's just like he told his ghost to like prep that for him, which is pretty cool. So I think that's a good connection point there. So at that point, Saint 14 just kind of disappears. We never hear from him again.
There's
right?
no word of him. We know that he went to Mercury, and we don't know what happened there. Either he ended up joining Osiris and is now one of the Sunbreakers, or he is just assisting Osiris where it's needed, or he actually did try to fight Osiris and was killed.
Well, maybe we'll find out in this upcoming DLC. But that's good stuff. Let's see here. What else? What else in that backstory? So Osiris left the tower or left the city for what reason? Like we know Saint 14 went to track him down, but why did he leave in the first place? What was the tipping point that caused him to leave?
I think we need to go back just a little further. After he became the Vanguard leader,
okay,
he got really bored with that position. He got sick of grinding strikes, and there's specific language in one of the Grimoire cards that the repetitive nature of the strikes wore him out. He got...
Yeah, I watched as you grew tired of strike missions and the grueling, unproductive sessions with the Cryptarchs.
I think we can all appreciate that statement about the Cryptarchs, too. So he got tired of doing that. He started studying the Vex and the darkness, and he started dabbling in darker arts that were not approved by the speaker. He was a fanatinaut, so he'd intentionally die to glean information or visions before having his ghost revive him. And
he also studied the Ahamkara, looking for, essentially, what I can understand is looking for one of the Wish Dragons, which was completely forbidden by the speaker and the consensus.
So he was dabbling in things that were considered to be the dark arts of the day.
Looking
into Zur and the Nine.
He was looking into those things where you're like, reef. Yeah, having an understanding of these things would be really good, but don't start taking part in certain things that you probably really shouldn't. Don't open a box when you don't have to.
He's sending resources out that they didn't have to explore the reef and things out in the wilderness, and just really stretching the Vanguard very thin.
Yeah, I'm reading here, and it says your quest split Guardians along ideological lines. This was your greatest crime. Hunters chose to pursue your visions instead of protecting refugees. Titans assembled teams to chase the legendary Vault of Glass instead of striking the Fallen. And warlocks turned away from the study of the Traveler in favor of your ultimate obsession, learning the exact nature of the darkness.
And I think that's where the Jepson scribes come in. Mir from Nessus he has a huge following of Titans, warlocks, hunters that their main goal is to broaden the knowledge of the darkness, because the best way that we can fight it is to know about it.
Yeah, and without getting too
wasn't
deep
that
into...
similar to Toland?
What was that, Zach?
I said, wasn't that similar to Toland?
Well, he inspired Toland. His conversations with Toland and the research he was doing on the Vex inspired Toland to start chasing the Hive and try to better understand the nature of the Hive.
Toland just didn't have the mental stability to deal with the Hive in the way that he was.
Toland went too deep and wasn't able to make it back, is what you're saying.
Yes, Toland went right down that rabbit hole and essentially became the thing that he was hunting. And that's the big worry that everybody has about Osiris, or had at least about Osiris.
I mean, even his curiosity is the reason we went into the Vault of Glass in the first place. He inspired the first team of Titans to go in and look around and see if they could understand it.
Okay, very interesting. And so this delving into the darkness, the speaker had a problem.
Well, because he not only the fact that he was delving into the mysteries of the darkness, he started questioning the Traveler. He started questioning that the Traveler was alive still, that even the speaker even spoke for the Traveler. It just didn't make sense to him. The way I like to equate Osiris is he's pretty much your average Destiny player. Why, or at least your average Destiny player that's into the lore. He questioned everything.
Interesting.
I think that's why he has such a huge following in the lore community, is the fact that he's asking the questions inside the game that we're playing that we're all asking.
I'm reading here, and it says, in again, this original card here, it says that you've made breakthrough after breakthrough as to their origins, referring to the Vex here. Theories that a Guardian could not be simulated, that the Traveler might be an ontoformer, which I'm not sure what that means. To Google that word. Don't see that one in everyday language. Or a god incubator, that the Vex had diverged into multiple groups in order to secure an end state for every possible configuration of reality.
Which was proven.
So
when you walk into the Vault of Glass, you see the two different types of, or technically I think it's three, but the two primary ones. You have the Primeval and I can't remember exactly what they were, but you have the two different, the Descendants, the two different type of Vex, the Precursors and Descendants, right there. So part of that theory is proven.
Well, we also see that with the Curse of Osiris trailer and what they've talked about. The Vault of Glass intro is a Vex simulation to understand what may happen in the Vault of Glass, and the entire Infinite Forest area is based upon kind of Vex theories of what could happen or different possible outcomes, which is why there's one where the Fallen are there. There's one where the Vex have taken over.
And up until this point, Osiris had complete autonomy inside the Vex network. There's an adventure that outright says, a user in the Vex network sends his regards. And
oh yeah, I remember that. Yeah. So interesting here. Ontoformer, as far as I can tell, is not a. They like literally made that word up.
They have a tendency of doing that.
I can't find that. But if you break down the etymology, it onto the prefix is aware of or familiar with, former being things in the past. So the traveler might have a full history of everything in the past, or be some sort of a god incubator. That's what they're saying there, which is an interesting theory. But at least he was right in that last part. The Vex had diverged in multiple groups in order to secure an end state. But they also mentioned here that he's become obsessed with the Vex as Toland was with the Hive, as in if Toland went mad before.
Toland went insane before Osiris did.
Before Osiris left. So is that then that mean that the fire team that went after Crota left before the team that went after
that's where the timeline gets hazy. Toland was exiled. The fire team, like the first Crota fire team, went and sought out Toland for his expertise on the Hive and brought him
even though they knew he was crazy.
Yes.
Okay.
And Osiris had predicted Crota and had predicted Oryx. And it says right in that same passage, I've heard your own insane prophecies about pits and dead Hive kings, and of Crota, which now I cannot deny. He made all of these statements about the Hive, about the Vex, and
because he had seen them on Mercury in the Infinite Forest.
He was at the Shrine of Oryx and on the moon. So, we know that he had visited the Shrine of Oryx. We don't know if that was he found out the knowledge through the Vex, through just his own expertise in exploring the Hive, or if he just stumbled on it. But he started putting the pieces together and started, openly saying, we have a problem here. And nobody wanted to believe him.
Okay, you got to explain this to me. It says here, I hear stories of Lord Shaxx meeting with fire teams of warlocks who have no shadow and never blink.
So when you're in Radiance, if you look at your shadow in the sunlight, your shadow is always pointing away from where the light is. If you're constantly in Radiance, you'll never have a shadow because the light is coming from you. And the whole blinking thing.
Interesting.
I can't. Maybe Mayhor can explain that one, but I have they just don't blink. Maybe they're controlled. Maybe they're insane.
No, that almost just seems like some flavor text to add some mystery to them.
But because
Maybe
there was a statement previously that Osiris is either constantly in Radiance or he doesn't have to dismiss his Radiance, it makes me think that he had taught other warlocks, probably his disciples, to do the same.
I think that's one of
So wasn't there something where he was during a battle he was burning so bright that there was an after image of him?
So me and Mayhor talked about this earlier, and I don't know what side he stands on. Pretty much, Mayhor, was it the Battle of Six Fronts?
Yes, it was.
Where he appeared to be everywhere.
There were multiple sightings of him simultaneously around the wall.
Yeah, and so either he was burning so bright that he was leaving an after image as he was moving around the battle, or he had figured out how to use the Vex network to move from area to area almost seamlessly, which is why he could be seen everywhere. I don't know where I stand on that one. Either one is possible, given what we do know about Osiris and what we haven't been told about Osiris.
That's so. It would be interesting that maybe if it was that he was using the Vex network, that he decided, maybe he had that ability, he just wasn't showing it off until the battle became so desperate that he had to.
Yeah, and I mean the issue with that is the fact that we don't know where he was in his research of the Vex. All we know is that he was everywhere at once, it seemed. And we're still, like, there's still debates on it. I don't believe that he was that deep into the Vex at that point. I can't say for certain, obviously, but it does make me think that he might have been having the after image of himself, essentially, because he was essentially everywhere at once. But if you're burning, think of it like a camera flash. When you get hit with a camera, or you get your picture taken from an old school camera with a flash, you see after images of the dots from the actual flash itself. If he's burning that brightly, it wouldn't be hard to think that he would have an after image behind him.
Yeah, and I lean more towards that line of thought on where he was or what was going on during the battle.
I'm actually looking to see if I can find that direct quote for the Battle of Six Fronts. See if I can find it. Don't remember what it was on.
Let me see here. Oh, consensus. Reading here. No, that's not it. That's not it. Speaker. Toland. City. Battle of Twilight Gap. Ask the speaker. Terrible faction wars.
Let's see here.
Interesting.
Maybe it's under Saint 14.
I'm not finding it anywhere under Osiris or under Six Fronts.
It might be under, actually. Mayhor, do you remember what card that was from?
I don't. I'm kind of like you guys looking through some of the cards right now to see if I can find anything.
Well, that's a D2 adventure. Interesting. Or at least a D2 scan.
Which one?
Here's an interesting one I'm reading here. It's on IO, and it says, and the ghost says, "I'm detecting a faint connection here to the Vault of Glass. Yeah. Remember Kabir? How do you say that? Panan, Pahanan,
yes,
something like that.
Yeah.
That other one, and Pradith." And then it goes on to the next line here. It says, "Guardians who make a mark on the Vex become legends. Kabir, Panan, Pradith, Osiris." Interesting. Mentions that fire team and Osiris together again. Well, anyways, point being, we know what that is.
Yes.
We've read it. So let's dig in a little bit here. So we kind of have, I think we have a good background for Osiris now. Yes,
more or less. I mean, you could spend another hour talking about his background.
I'm sure. But we have a solid background here for who this guy is. So Osiris was exiled for being a little too into the dark arts. as you might call it. In a D1, we played the Trials of Osiris, and there was a Brother Vance at the Reef, a disciple of Osiris, who we'd go to pretty weekly. And there's this cult called the Cult of Osiris. And the Grimoire card for it says the Cult of Osiris wants something. Whatever it is, it might be obtained through violence. The trials are a competition built to identify guardians who never lose.
Yeah.
The Warlock Osiris vanished into exile years ago. Unlike solitary Tolan, Osiris left a network of acolytes and admirers who carry on his work. Excuse me. And it's interesting because they have the lighthouse at Mercury is where they generally hang out. And they've been kind of carrying on what they think is going to be his work. Or what they think is his work. So I don't know. It's an interesting kind of story to hear what they've been doing. What have they been doing since Osiris disappeared, or have any of them been in contact with them?
So for the Grimoire card, Disciples of Osiris, it's a letter to Brother Vance from another member of the cult, Sister Feora. It says, "My brother, despite all of Shaq's work with the Crucible, we must accept that the tower may never be ready to accept the trials. But as many guardians flock to the reef, excuse me, we are suddenly presented with not one, but two, or one opportunity, but two. Go to the reef, tell guardians your story, give passage to any guardian that requests it. If the tower learns of this, do not fear. If they know of the trials, the tower will not suspect your other motive for dwelling so close to the margins between light and dark. Your sister, Feora."
Do we ever figure out what that second opportunity is?
There's a lot of different things that it could be. I personally think it is for Osiris working to recruit members to fight the Vex head on with the best of the best guardians he knows don't lose.
Yeah, not only the skill to go flawless, but the luck that's needed as well. He's looking for people that have skill and fate on their side.
And with being in that area of light and darkness, it's the perfect mesh of those two things. It's a way that it's a way that they can essentially study the light and study the darkness where they intermingle.
Interesting. Very, very interesting. Which I guess happens to be at the reef, right?
Well, that's because that's the home of the Awoken. It's the last place the light touches, in theory.
In theory.
Because, well, after the big, explosion, we don't know how far the light extends at this point. It looks pretty damn far. So
that was what, the edge of the galaxy?
What? The reef? Or the light wave?
No, the light wave that we saw, at least to the edge of the galaxy.
Farther than that. I don't know. Mayhord, what do you think on that one?
Yeah, those ships look like they were pretty far away, so I imagine it's going to take some time for them to get to the source of the light eruption that happened.
Yeah, it's interesting. Very interesting. So, what's Osiris been up to?
You gotta ask that question, don't you?
Yeah, I gotta ask that. What's he been doing? He disappeared, and he's been doing something.
Do you want the honest answer or the little white lie that's going to make everything feel better?
Let's have the little white lie version first, and then the
obviously
honest answer.
He's been helping, to make sure that the Vex don't take over everything all at once. It's the simple version. That's the easiest version, and that's the nicest way to think that what he's doing. Now the honest answer. We honestly have no idea. We know that he has been inside of the Vex network. We know that he's contacted Ikora. We know that he has reached out to us. And we know that he has been pulling strings behind the scenes. What exactly he's been doing, we don't know. He's been in contact with Morozov. He's been in contact with the Nine. It's a lot of powerful people that aren't necessarily, I wouldn't call them allies of the Tower at all. But he's been in a lot of contact of people that have shady sentiments of their own.
Even now, without going too far off track, I mean, he helped Morozov come up with a plan to stop Oryx and warned her of Oryx's impending arrival. He's had his hands in a lot of things throughout the life of Destiny.
He's been active the whole time we were playing Destiny 1. And the fact that we know, like, we have actual facts that he was active, we just don't know what it is. Easy, like I said, easy answer is, he's trying to stop the Vex. Actual answer is he's probably is trying to stop the Vex, but he probably has 10 other things that he's planning as well.
He's trying to figure out the Vex network system and where that really originates. He's trying to understand the Vex technology. I mean, we can see that with the gauntlets he's wearing in the trailer with the radiolarian fluid running through those gauntlets. He's not
radiolarian fluid.
Vex milk.
You mean Vex milk?
Vex milk. Sorry about that, Zach.
No. It's you got to dumb it down for
me.
I know. That's why I'm sorry for going there.
Mayhor, don't feel bad. We've explained this to him many times.
Come on. Okay.
But yeah, he's not just trying to destroy them. He's trying to understand them and adapt their technology to hopefully better suit what Guardians are trying to do. We hope it's for good purposes and not just to become the next Vex.
Okay. There was a lot of concerns, well, not concerns, but theories that maybe Osiris was going to be a bad guy in this DLC. That doesn't look to be the case now with the videos that we've seen. Is that still a
worry?
Any sort of a theory out there?
Oh, completely.
How would you tie that into what we know now? He
has no ghost. He's stuck in the Vex network. They can track him now. Who's to say he doesn't go too far and completely implements himself and turns into essentially a Guardian Vex hybrid?
Okay, possible. I can see that.
I'm hoping it's not, and I'm hoping it's the, rainbows and butterflies answer of he comes back to the tower and is the speaker. But
he's going to come back to the tower.
Anything is possible.
I'm calling that right now.
Yeah, that would make the most sense with the story and where things are going.
Yeah.
But we could also see a return of Saint 14 becoming the speaker.
Okay.
I think if they were going to pull a twist on us, I think that would be the ultimate twist. They have this whole thing about the Curse of Osiris. The Curse of Osiris is not a good implication. That sentence right there is just not... That does not sound good. So one theory that I've heard is that, he goes evil, he goes too far. We have to put him down, and we find Saint 14.
Saint 14 helps us
exactly.
do it.
The other thing...
By throwing a bunch of hammers at him.
The other thing that I've seen is that Saint 14 could be the final end boss.
Yeah, I just don't know if Osiris is as black and white as that. I mean, he dabbles in so much gray in the story. He could end up doing bad things for the right reasons.
Yeah. And I think that is the issue that the speaker had with him, is the fact that it doesn't matter how I get to the end result, as long as the end result is for the betterment of my people and the reasons that I want to do it.
He read a lot of Machiavelli, apparently.
Do you blame him, though? Sometimes it's the most effective way. He's not so much how I get to the outcome, it is very much the outcome is what will decide whether or not if what I did was right or wrong.
And that may be why he didn't get along with the speaker.
Well, I think his main contention with the speaker was the fact that he wholeheartedly believed that we need to look to other saviors and other things besides the Traveler.
So he was a member of Dead Orbit.
Maybe.
Might have been.
I can hope.
You can hope.
Dude, my favorite faction is Dead Orbit. My favorite character is Osiris. Just mix them together.
Yeah.
Just mix them together.
I think he discovered that the speaker was a fraud. I mean, came out in the story that the speaker never actually heard the Traveler. I think Osiris figured that out pretty early on and kind of wrestled with the decision of, do I go public with this and destroy the tower and what we built here, or do I continue to play along with the lie and just do what I need to do to help prepare us for the oncoming assault?
And that's where I think we have the question of, did he exile himself or did the speaker exile him? Because Osiris is the type of character where he 100% would, in that circumstance, say, I know he's a fraud. To tell people would be the good thing to do, to get it out there. But to keep the status quo, I can't. It would cause chaos and it would destroy us. I need to make sure that they are prepared to understand it before I reveal it.
Yeah, there's another Grimoire card later. I can't remember which one off the top of my head, but it almost sounds like he exiled himself because the speaker references wanting to talk to him again and hear his theories again. So the speaker still had a lot of appreciation for what Osiris was doing and trying to understand where he was coming from.
Very interesting here. I'm just kind of like noticing things in the naming of items. But you have in Trials, some of the original Trials weapons, you have you have the messenger, but you also have things like the Exile's Curse, the Scholar, the Infinite Theorem. A lot of these things that we're talking about that are coming in for this DLC were maybe hinted at in these early weapons in this, referencing Osiris.
Yeah, and there's a like Mayhor said, there is a, I don't exactly know what the Grimoire card is either, but there is a Grimoire card of pretty much him saying, I wish you were here so that I could talk to you. I'm trying to see if I can find it.
Wow. There's so much lore on this.
You have no idea.
It's almost too bad they took the Grimoire out of the game because the possibilities for Osiris and the storytelling they could do are amazing. I mean, the places he's been, the fractal scrolls, everything he's done with the trials could all add a whole lot of light to the game and really expand the universe.
So that's interesting. There's a warlock bond called the Other Side of Nothing, which we said he was a Thanonaut, killing himself repeatedly to see what he could find on the other side. But it lists what is listed as a parable of Osiris, and it says nobody comes back the same.
True.
Interesting things they just hid in
there. Everybody used to say that the Destiny 1 vanilla, or even just Destiny 1, the lore was really lacking. And the problem with that is, Bungie did a good job with the lore, they just didn't do a good job putting it inside the game and easily accessible.
Agreed. Agreed.
And a lot of hidden lore, and if you knew where to look, you were pretty good.
So you and not me. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So we don't know what he's really been doing. So let's. What else do we need to know about before this DLC on Tuesday? What should people know? Like maybe about the Vex. Anything else about Osiris or Mercury or?
One of the things that may come out of it that Osiris has alluded to is the Vex and the Hive are at the same level of darkness, and that's never really presented in game. The Hive always come across as the darkest of all the enemies we fight, especially when we start getting into Oryx and the Taken King. But Osiris really believed that the two of them were linked in the place they were coming from and their end goal. So it could really shine a light that the Vex are more than just machines trying to rule the universe or plan for every possible outcome, but they are truly a manifestation of the darkness, the enemy of the traveler.
They 100% are. I mean, and they didn't start off that way. Unfortunately, they were a building race. They were a race of individuals that meant to terraform planets or build things for planets. And unfortunately, it was corrupted when Korea encountered Oryx.
So, That's interesting. Okay.
And that's the hard thing to kind of plan about what's needed in the DLC, because there are so many directions that the story can go given how little we know about the Vex and Osiris and what Osiris has been working on. The most probable is, just figuring out how to stop the Vex and use their technology against them, but it can go off into some really different places if the writers wanted to.
Oh, completely. And that's going to be the hard part, is figuring out which way they want to go. And with the advent of, the Infinite Forest, everything we could do in this expansion could essentially just be a simulation and nothing was actually real. And I'm hoping they don't go that route, but it's a possibility.
So this expansion could literally be for nothing, is what you're saying?
Kinda, yeah.
Yeah.
Like 100, like they opened that door the minute they were like, "Oh yeah, it's a simulation," and we could very much get like at the end of it, it could be like, okay, and you're walking out of the Infinite Forest, and everybody just goes, "What did you just do?"
Even it was one of those little Easter eggs in one of the live streams, but one of the writers for the Curse of Osiris expansion was asked, is all of this a Vex simulation? And she said it could be. I mean, even the Red War going back to Destiny 1, this could all just be a simulation.
That was the Ishtar Collective when they figured out they could find 270 versions of themselves in the simulation. Yeah. And so it's one of those Matrix moments where it's like, are we in the simulation? Or is this all been a simulation? Or are we actually looking into it? And then the people in the simulation are all asking the same thing. That was one of the funny things, is one of them just kept commenting, "Yep," and he just asked that. "Yep," and he said the same thing. "Yep, you guys are imitating each other." It's just kind of like just line for line.
Yeah, there's so much potential with the story. It makes it really exciting to see what's going to happen with it.
One of the things I was reading about the Ishtar Collective there that made it rather interesting was the fact that they all dispersed into the network to do more research, and that was the last we heard of him. All 270 versions of him.
Yes and no. That is a whole nother podcast.
Well, let me ask you this. Is there a chance we would come across them
In theory, we already have.
in the DLC? What do you mean in theory we already have?
Lakshmi.
I'm sorry. Please explain. I don't know what
Okay.
you're talking about.
So, it was It was Suresh and I can't remember the other one's name.
Well, hold on. Back up. For those that don't know, because I only know this because I read a bunch of Grimoire cards about this the other day. The Ishtar Collective caught a Vex and was studying it. And was it inside the Vex milk? If I read that correctly?
I believe so.
They've discovered that the Vex were running simulations, and they found 270 versions of themselves within the simulation that they rescued.
I believe they created those.
Okay. Either way, they rescued them, got all 270 of them to say, yeah, we're going to go back into the simulation and look for answers.
Yes.
Okay.
I can't.
So back to the future world.
Double checking this. I believe it's Maya Sundaresh and Mahor. Do you remember who the other one was? Off the top of your head?
Was it Anna Bray in Maya Sundaresh?
I'm double checking right now. But let me. Ghost Fragment Vest.
I thought that it was inferred that those two were partners and doing a lot of research together outside of what Anna Bray was doing for her father's corporation.
Yes, and it's Maya Sundaresh and we have Dwayne McKnight, Maya Sundaresh, Shim, and who was the other one? We find the other here.
Okay, so there's this fourth person.
So
there we go.
Chioma and Maya Sundaresh were in a relationship. Now they also sent the simulations of themselves out into the world. There is a common theory that Maya Sundaresh and Chioma took the ability to become exos. I believe the theory is that the stranger is Chioma and Lakshmi is Maya Sundaresh.
Oh.
Because of their works with the different Vex technologies with the Ishtar Collective and how they link with the device for the Future War Cult. Because the Future War Cult's whole, like their whole shtick is essentially of exactly what Sundaresh had created. The machine, and it's stuff that she actually worked on. So if she continued it, and she outright says, maybe it'll become perdition, the gospel of our little cult. Because I'll read the whole card so you can get more understanding.
Yeah, please do.
Record 0, Chasm 52. I heard you, my love. I was at 6, oscillating on the event axis, coordinated with a known manifold. I heard you. You were talking to me, not me, but another me, another Maya Sundaresh. You said, my love, so many strange things have happened. and it's been so long. We've come so far. Do you ever want to go home? And I said, not me, but the other me. I said, my love, I'm always home. I'm redesigning, my love. I'm done with this work, and I'm done with being apart from you. I'll see you again soon. I can't take this journal out with me, so I've left it for others, and asked them to continue the log. Maybe it'll become a tradition, the gospel of our little cult. The only cult we know of besides the cult of Osiris is the Future War cult. Especially, it's the only cult that uses a device like the one that's mentioned in all the Grimoire cards. Now,
okay, that's interesting.
Now, whether Sundaresh is the stranger because she left and Chioma became Lakshmi because she received the journal and made it a tradition for the Future War cult, it's an interesting concept. And we may get more information on it because of the simulations that we're going to be going into. It's a hard sell. I think they're going to primarily be focusing on Osiris, probably Saint 14 lore, maybe even some more stuff about the speaker. But it's going to be primarily about Osiris and the main collective of the Vex. It's an answer that we would all love to have answered, or it's a question that we'd all love to have answered. Probably not going to happen.
Yeah, I think given how Bungie's launched Destiny 2 and kind of streamlined some of the lore and clipped out some of the more out there lore of D1, I would expect it to not get that deep into what we saw in D1.
It'll be a constant, wondering still of where was this going? How did it go?
Okay. Well, let me ask this then. How does Ikora connect to all this?
So she was,
because Ikora is kind of leading what it seems to be giving the missions out.
because she is Osiris's apprentice. Osiris trained Ikora to become the Warlock Vanguard. Osiris started the Hidden. He still has a vested interest in the Hidden. And as far as we know, he still has contact with the Hidden.
And just for those who are lore inept as me, the Hidden is
essentially Ikora's spy network.
There we go. Okay.
It's the easiest way to
Continuing on.
We know that Eris Morn is part of it. And we also know that Osiris founded it. And that Eris Morn and Osiris appear on the reef to speak to the Queen. So he still has a vested interest in the Hidden itself.
Okay.
Which
makes sense.
Is why that, and there are a lot of theories that Osiris looks to Ikora as a daughter. And that is going to, I think it's going to play a major part in this expansion because our main contact in the tower for these missions seems to be Ikora. And there's always been hints of her connection to Osiris. She wears a necklace that has like the Trial's son on it. It's mentioned in a lot of the lore. She mentions him in passing if you sit and listen to her idle dialogue once or twice. And it's going to be very interesting to see how the rest of the Vanguard deal with him, because Zavala was very much a loyal fanatic. I wouldn't call him a fanatic, but he was very much a loyal person to the original speaker. So I can't see him being too thrilled that Osiris came back.
Well, even that, I believe it was the Battle of Twilight Gap where Osiris hired the Sunbreakers to come help defend the city, and they were seen as mercenaries, and Zavala hated the decision of hiring mercenaries to come out and help fight alongside the Vanguard. They had ugly fights about that.
I don't think I don't think Cade is going to care. You'll probably have a lot of quick kips from Cade. I'm assuming we'll probably get a line that is, "I heard you were a Golden Age experiment," which reverts back to Lysander from the Concordat absolutely despising Osiris. You'll probably get a few questions. We know that Saladin cannot stand Osiris at all.
So, side note relating to Ikora here, as I'm just reading through lore and finding funny things that make me laugh. Have you read the lore on the Lucky Pants?
Lucky Pants? I may have.
Yeah, the hunter.
Yeah, the kind of ties back to that Age of Triumph Grimoire card of how Cade beat Shax in the Crucible.
That I haven't heard of. But according to the Lucky Pants lore, if you read it here, it's computer, welcome user, Ace of Hearts. Please enter search query. Search query, beat Shax. Computer results. Only one Guardian has defeated Lord Shax in the Crucible. Related, Ikora Ray. Do you wish to see post-match results? And then he goes on to enter things like, cheat Crucible. Computer's like, I don't understand. Cheaters will be banned. What counts
about
as cheating?
Just a little?
Is luck cheating? Yeah. And he asks, is luck cheating? And the computer comes back, luck and cheating are not equivalent. He goes, okay, my pants are lucky.
My pants are my pants lucky? Probably not. Wrong. They're super lucky. And yeah, that goes this.
Yeah, and that's where the original description here. What? No, I didn't illegally mod the holster. These are just really lucky pants.
Yeah, we know that well, that's another thing. Shax does get along with Osiris. He is in contact with him. And he has...
Really?
There's an item from, I want to say, Trials of Osiris that... Where is it? It's like a little pyramid. Let me see here.
Was it an artifact?
It might have been a Warlock artifact.
I think so.
I'm going to look it up right now.
It makes sense. I mean, Shax and Osiris do have some of the same goals with their versions of the Crucible, just making sure Guardians are prepared and battle-tested for when they're needed.
Yeah, I'm looking for I'm just looking for that actual... I love this site, but it's tough to deal with sometimes.
Prismatic Heart.
No.
Transcendent Eye.
Let me see.
Whispering Spear.
It's a little pyramid thing. Can't remember. Oh, the Excel.
Powerless Glass.
Maybe.
It just says the sand in this seemingly ancient timepiece will not move no matter which way you turn it. There it is.
Yep.
Here we go. It is a Whispering Sphere.
Okay.
It looks like a triangle, but it's got a sphere within it. It says you can't be sure, but you think you've seen Lord Shax speaking into a sphere just like this one. Interesting.
So we know that he's been in contact, whether that has to just do with Crucible and Trials, hey, I want to use this map for my trials, and Shax is like, yeah, sure, why not? Or if it's deeper than that, we're not entirely sure.
Because I think it was interesting when we were talking about the disciples of Osiris and Brother Vance, they were talking about that the tower would never accept it, but Shax would let it happen.
Shax and
the trials.
Shax in the tower, he still doesn't really get along with Zavala. Like, he gets along with Zavala better than he does with Saladin, but he still is... doesn't really get along with Zavala too well. And it's outright stated, in multiple occasions, instead of having Guardians fight against each other, you could be out in the field yourself doing this, that, and the other thing. And Shax is saying, I am preparing us for what needs to happen and what needs to come.
Interesting.
So they share, Shax and Osiris seem to share similar ideals on what we need to do to prepare. And that could be where one of the disconnects comes, as far as Saladin and Shax, along with Saladin and Osiris. And we're not really sure why Saladin hates Osiris. I know System brought up the whole faction wars thing, which was a detriment to, the whole city in general. But there's a chance, and it probably does go deeper. I don't know if Mayhor has any more to add.
I think we might find that out.
No, I don't either. That's one of those things that was intentionally kept a bit of a mystery.
So, do you have any other questions?
All right,
Zach?
I think that was it for me. I think we have a lot here that people can kind of have a basic understanding of what we're going into. Oh, explain exactly what it's hard to be exact on something that's infinite, but what is the infinite forest?
It's a Vex simulation where you can, I'm assuming, we don't know exactly.
We'll probably learn in the DLC.
The DLC.
Best to our knowledge, what is
the simulation that the Vex use to figure out what's going to happen and where it's going to pretty much lay out. That's one of the ways that they predict, the future of, how we need to do this so we end up on top, so we don't get destroyed. The Vex are actively trying to find a timeline where they aren't wiped out and that they come out on top. And the Infinite Force is probably a tool to enable them to use and help that theories.
So if I'm understanding correctly from what I've read about it, it's basically a forest of infinite
possibilities,
different timelines and possibilities that the Vex are utilizing to, again, like you're saying, not only make sure that they survive or at least win, and that's what they're looking for, and then they pursue those answers, because within the infinite forest they can basically manipulate with these simulations all the possibilities. Like, they can foresee everything, but they haven't been able to simulate Guardians.
They can't simulate,
which has really made it. They can't simulate light in particular, right? Which has made it extremely difficult for them to properly make simulations, which is why they've been losing so badly to just 6 Guardians go into the vault and demolish the crap out of them. But as well as the other thing that I was reading is they're not only trying to determine a winning timeline, they're also literally trying to determine kind of how everything works, evolve themselves further so they can literally weave themselves into the very fabric of time and space.
Yes,
so that they can never be eliminated permanently from the universe, as they do wipe, some Guardians like those that disappeared into the vault, like Kabir and Praedyth.
Yeah, they especially when they were fighting with Oryx, long before the Taken King expansion, they had a 100-year war. They realized they couldn't beat Oryx, and Oryx realized he couldn't beat the Vex. So, trying to figure out a way to not be just annihilated by each other. They've realized there are enemies out there that they just can't beat them what they do, because they're not able to be studied or simulated. We fall into that category.
And Oryx and some of the Hive also do. Korea was able to, I believe, simulate Oryx to a point, but when she did, she became essentially corrupted. If I'm correct, I believe that's the correct theory, right, Mahor?
Yeah, eventually overtaken by the hive in Oryx and given as a gift to Savathun.
Which we have seen mentions of Korea in D2. Some of the yellow bar bosses are, I think it's, what is it?
All the ones on IO that you come across that are the Vex version of Taken.
Yep. They have I want to say, Servant of Korea, or it's a named enemy with the Servant of Korea on it.
Interesting. So, I love how they're just building all this stuff in here that we might just kind of come across.
And there's so much potential building off of this, what they do with the Warmind expansion, and then moving forward, there's a chance to tie all of this together and create this amazing story about Guardians. And it goes back to Osiris and some of the early studies he's done and everything he's done to help shape the Vanguard and Guardians and what we've been after. I mean, that's the hard thing about discussing Osiris lore is going back to him, he branches out to everything we've come across.
He touches on every little thing that there is.
I was looking at his entry and it's just kind of like links to like 130 different items and links to. I was like, okay, so this is 3 pages of results here of Osiris related items.
Like if you
144 Osiris lore entries.
Oh,
just the lore
and
entries.
Yeah, I mean, you can even get to your favorite PvP weapon, Zach. The super good advice is a direct result of Osiris.
If I'm not mistaken, that was Osiris talked to this hunter, and this hunter became so afraid of being erased from time that he created a weapon that would always know that he's there and know that if
I believe it was a Titan.
Yeah, it was one of the first groups he sent into the Vault of Glass, and after seeing what happened, and when he came out of it, he created that. But I mean, even just down to some of the exotics, some of the weapons, all go back to Osiris having a hand in something to get there.
Yeah, that was interesting. It seems like Osiris did all the studying, sent the first fire teams down, and then I think it was Kabir formed the
Aegis.
The Aegis, and then Praedyth was the one who sent the message that they were being erased from time. And after the hunter or Titan, whoever received that message, saw it, created the super good advice out of fear of being wiped from existence, and then passed on the message to the tower that we needed to go to the Vault of Glass.
I mean, even for those that played Vault of Glass, the shield you use in the Templar encounter, that is Kabir. That's what happened to him after he drank Vex milk.
Yeah, he forged that out of basically his own light, correct?
Yep.
The Aegis essentially is
just crazy to
Kabir.
think about. Right, and the other thing that I thought was really interesting about when reading about it was that it exists in every timeline. It can't be wiped from existence. So as long as you have that, you can't be wiped from existence.
It's because it's a pure manifestation of light.
Right. Which I thought was it was a really cool piece of lore. Like, he created something that would be everywhere so that we could always defeat Atheon.
Until now.
What do you mean until now?
They can detect the light, which means they can simulate the light, which means that probably won't really work now. There are implications.
Well, they couldn't destroy it. That was the thing, is they knew it was there. They could send it to other places. They could send it forward and backward in time, but they couldn't destroy it.
But they can't manipulate it because they don't understand the light. Now that they have an understanding of the light, the implications to them knowing the information that they needed to know is that they can deal with artifacts such as the Aegis. They can simulate Guardians. They can figure out how we work, how we tick, and how the light works. What Bungie did essentially by enabling the Vex to harness, well, not even harness the light, but understand the light, implements everything all the way back to vanilla. It can change all of those things.
Huh. Interesting. Very, very interesting.
I think that's the most frightening thing about that. I mean, I could be wrong, Mayhor. I don't know. What do you think, Mayhor? But I think that is the most terrifying thing.
Absolutely. I mean, it changes. It can change everything about the foundation of the game, the story of the game. There's just almost infinite possibilities of what the Vex could do with that and how it would change what we do.
Essentially, on a complete spin foil, that could be why some of our supers are different.
Yeah, I mean, Osiris was a Sunsinger Warlock, but he's, in the trailer now a Dawnblade Warlock. So at some point, even that kind of has to be accounted for on why is he no longer a Sunsinger?
That is interesting. I hope someday they'll give us the choice to go back.
I think they will.
Sunsinger and Blade Dancer, and
I mean, I had this
fun.
conversation in, I want to say it was the lore chat of our secrets chat. Is I don't necessarily think they're brand new subclasses. I think they're evolutions on the previous subclasses that they were. I think that we've just mastered the light in a way that enables us to use it differently.
Yeah, but I would hope to see at some point they give us the ability to
revert back.
Well, in similar to the Bubble Titan, to your Defender Titan, having bubble ability and having Sentinel ability within the same super. I'd like to be able to pop Blade or pop Arc Strider, pop a one ginormous Fist of Havoc, or smaller multiple ones, as well as Sunsing or Dawnblade.
I agree. But that's something we're going to have to probably wait for.
Of course, we'll have to wait
I think
for
we've covered a decent amount of what to expect, what to know as far as Osiris. I mean, there's no way we're going to answer every question that people could have. And by all means, if you have more questions, we highly, highly recommend that you email us. Give us something to talk about. Give us something to answer. If you have more questions, by all means.
What's that email address again?
Please. tforgottenfaction@gmail.com. If we miss something today, you're like, oh man, everybody needs to know this. This should have been on this episode. Email us. Let us know what it should have been. If you think we got something wrong, or if we misspoke on something, or there's some piece of lore that we should know about because it would have tied something in better, let us know.
Even theories.
And if you in theories, love to hear those. And if you like this episode, please let us know. We want to know if you guys like this kind of stuff so we can bring more of it in there. And please, if you're listening on iTunes, Google Play, leave us a review. Give us 5 stars. Yay, so more people can find us. And we'll catch you after the DLC because it comes out on Tuesday.
And we will have 2 days after that, we're going to be doing a recording, which I want to do a little bit more for the launch of the DLC, but that's something I think the podcast.
I'm sure we'll be streaming. So if you guys aren't following us already, follow us DoD Westside on Twitch. And if you're not able to play, we will.
That's something they could also. That's something that they could also let us know is, do they want to see more from us as far as streams and at least from the podcast crew, and pulling in some of our guests that we've had before and some new guests. It's a lot easier to pull in clan members into an in-game stream than it is sometimes to get timing wise for a podcast.
For sure.
That is true.
For sure.
We don't have to.
All right,
we don't have to
guys.
stick
Well,
people in the closet. Uh,
all right. Well, it's been fun this week, and I hope you guys enjoyed getting 2 episodes this week. That's not something we would normally do, but there was just so much going on this week with the Bungie update and the blog update there. Plus, we wanted to kind of prep everybody for this upcoming DLC on Tuesday. So, if hopefully this is all out by Monday, so you can listen to it while you're playing or right before you get home from work and
no,
get to play.
don't listen
But
to us while you're playing the DLC. You need,
while it's
exactly.
downloading,
You need to pay attention
because it's going to take 2 hours.
You need to pay attention to the story, Zach.
Shh. What is the story? That's what you have us for.
Zach, that's what you have us for.
That's true. All right. It's been good, guys. Catch y'all next
See
week.
y'all next week.